Hi golfers, Nick here from GOLFTEC Singapore. It's Friday, so welcome to another lesson on golf tips. This week in golf tips, we can continue with last week's video where we took this swing from position 1 at setup to position 2 when the shaft was parallel in the takeaway. We're going to continue with that video and just move the swing up to position 4, which is the top of the backswing. We're going to take a look at how the body moves in terms of the side tilt to the left, how the body works in terms of the extension of the spine, and we're also going to look at the rotation of the body from position 1 to position 4. We're going to use the motion numbers here on the video to show you guys how the best players in the world take the club from position 1 to position 4 at the top of the backswing. So before we take a look at the movements and then sit down and take a look at my swing using the motion numbers, I'm just going to hit a shot here to show you guys sort of my normal ball flight. So normal ball flight, as on the screen there, just starts right at the line, just draws back in towards the line. So that's my push draw. We talked last week about the grid, how that works and how the draw is already built into the shot. So let's talk about the backswing and sort of what sort of movements are quite key. So today we're going to look at those movements of my swing from position 1 to position 4, which is the top of the backswing. Position 4 at the top of the backswing is measured when we've turned the most in the backswing. So we've basically, at GOLFTEC here, in the backswing we close our turns in the backswing and then we open them in the follow through. So we're going to be looking at the position where I've closed my turn the most towards the target. One of the key functions of the backswing is to try and keep our angle to the ground. A lot of people talk about this as maintaining posture. We talk about it as maintaining your inclination to the ground, trying to keep your head in the circle, if you like. We don't want that head moving around too much. We want to swing in an arc around a centered point. Okay, if we're moving our head around, it makes it really hard to control sort of the first key fundamental of the swing, which is the contact. So in the backswing, we're trying to keep our head steady. So we're going to look at the swing from the side view today and look at what movements occur to try and keep that head pretty steady. So as we set up to the golf ball, every golfer will have a forward bend in their shoulders, which we're going to take a look at on the motion numbers today. Now that forward bend would actually become pretty much a zero bend in the backswing. So basically, if I point this club downwards, this is a forward bend. By the time I get to the top of my backswing, the average golfer is at zero bend here. Now I teach a lot of golfers that maintain their forward bend and they'll tend to move their head. So we're looking at trying in the backswing, try and go from a forward bend to roughly a zero bend, and we call that the extension of the spine. And the reason why the head doesn't lift up is because of the leftward tilt. So constantly through the backswing, while we're moving from that forward bend to a zero bend, we're also side tilting to the left. So as we move back, I'm going to be moving my shoulder downwards and extending my spine to try and keep this head in that circle. And at the same time, I'm trying to swing this club in an arc around my body, sort of on these grid lines. So in the backswing, the hands and the club should move in at the same rate. At the top of the backswing, we're looking for roughly the left arm to be across the line of the shoulders. In terms of rotation, we're looking for around about 45 degree of hip turn and 90 degree of shoulder turn. So let's sit down now, take a look at my swing in a bit of detail, using those motion numbers just to give you guys a little bit of idea of what we need to look for in the backswing. Now we're going to take a look at my golf swing using the motion numbers from position 1 to position 4, where I've turned the most in the backswing. So as you can see on the screen here, I've just pulled up some numbers. So I've got shoulder turn, shoulder tilt, shoulder bend, hip turn and hip bend. So we're going to go through a couple of these different numbers and just show you how they change in the backswing and how I keep my swing on plane, and also how I keep my sort of inclination to the ground. So first of all, you can see I've got the shoulder bend number up, which is 49 degrees. You can see there. Basically what that means is this sensor here is pointing downwards 49 degrees. Now if I was to keep that sensor pointing downwards 49 degrees in the backswing, I'd be probably shifting and swaying my head towards the right to keep that bend. The best players, they actually move from that forward bend into a zero bend or even a slight backward bend as they move back in the backswing, and at the same time, we talked about it there, the shoulders will be moving from a right tilt to a leftward tilt. So first of all, let's take it to position 2, which we looked at last time. So as I get to position 2, you can see how my shoulder turn is now 51 degrees closed, my hip turn is 28 degrees closed, my shoulder tilt is now gone from a rightward tilt to a leftward tilt. You can see my head is pretty much in that circle, and you can see the hands and the club are just sort of tracking that sort of shaft plane as I move backwards. Now, as I go from position 2 here and keep this going, what you'll start to notice is that shoulder bend is getting less and less, the shoulder turn's increasing, the shoulder tilt is moving more to the left, hip turn is increasing, so you can see how these numbers change as I keep going up to the top of the backswing. So by the time I get to the top of the backswing here, you can see now my hand position is on the top of the elbow plane where it started, and that's just as I've swung back, the more my right arm was folded, that sort of lifted that club up slightly, but you can see how my left arm now is on the line of my shoulders. You can see how my hands are more behind me. This would be sort of on plane. Now, if you look at it from the face-on view here, the shoulder bend is basically, this sensor here is pointing backwards 6 degrees. Now, as I set up, it was pointing downwards 49, and then by the time I got to the top, it was pointing backwards 6 degrees. So that's where my forward bend has gone into an extension, into even a slight backward bend. Now, the reason my head didn't lift up when you look at that from down the line is because of my shoulder tilt, which is now 38 degrees here. As I set up, my shoulder tilt was 8 degrees to the right, so my shoulder tilt here was to the right, and then as I've moved into the backswing, that's progressively moved into a leftward tilt. So now at the top here, it's moved to 38 degrees to the left. So that's basically, as I swung back there to keep my head in this circle, I've moved into my leftward tilt, and I've also extended my spine. That helps me rotate, and that's why my rotation there is bang on what the tour average would be, 89 degrees of shoulder turn, roughly half amount of hip turn, 45 degrees. I've also brought up there the hip bend just to show you guys, because sometimes there's a bit of misinformation on this. So basically my hip bend is tilted forward, I set the sensor there on my hip, 16 degrees I set up, and again, like I did with my forward bend, that hip bend does progressively go slightly less, so eventually I get to 7 degrees of forward bend. Again, all these numbers are green, so these numbers green mean that I'm within what the tour average would be. So in the backswing here, we're trying to keep our inclination to the ground, we're trying to keep our head in that circle, and we're trying to keep the swing on plane as I go back, and if you can do that, you've got a good chance then of moving down into the downswing and keeping that swing on the grid. So a little bit of detail there where we went into the backswing. I thought it was quite important to just continue with last week's video where we looked at the takeaway. I did have some comments from people to say, are you going to do more videos on this? Are you going to keep the swing going? Is there going to be more parts to it? Because I think it's quite good to just see how these numbers progressively change at every point, and I think it's one of the great things about how we measure the golf swing here at GOLFTEC, using these sensors and basically showing you guys what the tour players do to help you improve your golf. So golfers, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you don't already, please follow me on my other social media platforms, and we'll see you again soon for another video on golf sets.